On the day of your Level 10 meeting, you'll see a Join button appear on your dashboard. You can also go into your Meetings tab in the left-hand sidebar, and you'll see your upcoming meeting at the top, and there'll also be a Join button here. You'll see a countdown on the button in hours and minutes for when the meeting is supposed to start. If you click the Join button, you'll be taken through to the meeting. First, we recommend you select your Facilitator and Scribe. Your Facilitator is the person that's leading the meeting. How they move between the different sections of the agenda will be recorded and shown as part of the meeting summary. The Scribe is the person that's going to be taking the notes, adding the to-dos, and generally doing the admin for the meeting. Once you've selected your Facilitator and Scribe, the Facilitator should click the Start Meeting button. You'll see the timer will begin to move and the clock will start. In your Level 10 meeting, the first part of the agenda is the Segue. In this section, each member of the team goes around and shares some good news. It can be personal or professional from the previous week. Once your Segue is complete, the Facilitator will click into the Scorecard section of the agenda. You'll go through each of the measurables and add your data for the week. This can also be done before the meeting, so all you're doing is reviewing it. If the data you've entered is hitting the target, the cell will turn green, and if it's not, it will turn red. If you then feel like you need to discuss why the measurable is not hitting the target, you can click the blue Drop It Down button, and it will be dropped down into the IDS section. You can also add notes on any cell by right-clicking and clicking the Add Note. You can also right-click and add a custom goal for that week if something's affected what the goal should be. You can change the settings on your scorecard to display different timeframes. You can also change the display settings to show any archived measurables, change the display order, and also decide whether you want to show or hide your average and total columns. You can also turn on and off the graph by clicking the Toggle Chart button, and you can turn on which items you're looking at in the graph by clicking the names at the top. You can also hover over certain places in the graph and you'll see specific data for that time frame. You'd typically just be looking at your weekly scorecard in your L10, but you can click to the other tabs if you want to discuss the measurables from different sections. The team setting should default to the team that the meeting is for. You can change to different teams if you want to look at their measurables. As you're coming to the end of the section, you'll see the timer turns orange and then to red if you've overrun. Once you're done with the scorecard, the facilitator then clicks into the rock review. You then go through your rocks and everybody tells you whether they're on track or off track. You'll see that the company rocks are all at the top, and then all the rocks are split out by individual. Under each person's name, you'll see any company rocks assigned to them, plus any individual rocks as well. Again, if one of the rocks is off track and you want to drop it down, you can click the Drop It Down button and it will be moved down to the IDS. To update your rocks, just select from the drop-down their current status. You can update the display settings for your rocks depending on whether you want to show or hide done and not done rocks for different time periods. The facilitator will now move on to the headlines. Once a headline has been shared, you can tick it off and it will disappear from the list. If a headline needs to be discussed further, you can click the Drop It Down button. If after discussing a headline you want to share something with other teams, you can create a new headline and click Cascading Message. This will allow you to select the teams you want to share it with from the Teams drop-down. Again, you can update your display as to whether you want to show or hide discussed headlines. Once you've shared all the headlines in the list, the facilitator will then move on to the to-do list. On the to-do list, you'll go through each to-do and they will say whether it's been completed or not. If it's been completed, you can tick it off, and if it hasn't and it needs to be discussed, you can use the Drop It Down button to drop it down into the IDS section. You can use the display filters if you want to see completed to-dos for different timeframes. Once you've gone through all the to-dos, you'll then move on to the IDS section. In your L10 meeting, you'll typically go through the short-term issues, but you can see your long-term issues here as well. The issues are numbered down the side to make it easy for people to shout out which ones they want to discuss. And you'll see there's a select button to prioritise which ones you want to discuss first. It allows you to select 3. You then discuss each one, and once it's solved, you can tick it off. Once you've discussed your first 3, you can then select more to add to the list. When you're discussing an issue, if you need to create a to-do, you can right-click and click the Create To-Do option. This to-do will then be a related item to the original issue. This is something you can do in any section when you right-click. You can either raise an issue or create a to-do, and the item will be linked back to the original source. When the time is up for your IDS section, the facilitator will then move on to the Conclude section. Here you will see any to-dos still open from the meeting and any new ones that have been created. You'll also see any cascading messages that are being seen by other teams. If you scroll down, you'll see the attendance list for the meeting, and you can tick off anyone that was absent. All the other attendees will then be able to rate the meeting out of 10. You'll then see an average meeting rating at the bottom. If you'd like to receive the meeting recap email, you can toggle this button on. You can see a preview of the email by clicking the magnifying glass icon. To conclude the meeting for everyone, click the Conclude Meeting button, and then click Yes, Conclude Meeting. You as the facilitator will then be taken to the weekly meeting summary. Here you can see how much time you spent in each section of the agenda.